Hello, I'm Rob Constantine, and this is Paranormal Record. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. This week, wow, I've got a great episode for you. I'm so excited. Uh, this week, ladies and gentlemen, is my friend James Caskey, and he runs a haunted tour company in Savannah called Cobblestone Tours, and you could check them out at ghostsavannah.com and get the times and make a reservation and go. If you're in Savannah, you've got to do this tour. It's wicked awesome. So definitely go to the tour, go do it, hang out with James. He's got so many stories for you, and I've got a lot of those stories right here on the episode tonight. James is also the author of several books, all on the paranormal, and you can find them all on Amazon. Here is the list of the books that he's written so far, and hopefully he will write lots more. Haunted Savannah, America's Most Spectral City. Charleston's Ghosts, Haunting in the Holy City. St. Augustine Ghosts, Hauntings in the Ancient City. And The Haunted History of New Orleans, Ghosts of the French Quarter. All of those are available at Amazon.com, written by Mr. James Caskey, our guest today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm so excited about this episode. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, James Caskey. Jamie, good to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So I'm so excited, and I probably just say that over and over again, but it's true. So Jamie, we can't wait to hear your tales and your stories. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, you and I spoke a little earlier about the fact that Savannah can change your mind about the paranormal. And I'm one of those people. I'm a convert. I wasn't raised in a household where that was talked about. Ghosts were, something you saw on TV around Halloween time. So when I moved to Savannah in 1992, if you had told me a ghost story that you believed and had told it to me as a true story, I probably would have made fun of you a little bit, just a little bit, because I did not believe at all. But Savannah, man, Savannah is very thin. The veil between the two worlds is very, very thin in places. And, it just took a number of years for me to finally have my first experience. It's the first thing that I've ever been eyewitness to. I got out of college and I started working at a bed and breakfast on Tybee Island, and that was back in 1997. And the owner, during the initial interview, he was going to take some time off. He had some family issues and also just needed a break. He owned this inn and he didn't want to close it because he had a few reservations on the books. And he and I had become friends. And so he called me out to the beach one time and said, "I'd like for you to run my bed and breakfast." And, he essentially described the dream job. I'm going to stay at the beach. I'm going to occasionally clean up a room or fix breakfast for a guest, but mostly I'm going to be by myself because it's the middle of the wintertime. And I was a portrait painter back then, and I, was offered a space to use by the owner. He said, you could take a little area in the basement and paint down there. And, as long as things get done, you can hang out on the beach. You can just hang around at the inn. You can do whatever you want. Sounds perfect, right?
Dream job. This is also shining at the beach, if I may. Like it really, you are a writer too, but you weren't a writer yet. You weren't a published writer yet, right?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, that was years away.
Yeah, but the studio offer. This is a crazy job, and you live there rent free.
Yeah, I got paid, and I lived at the beach rent free. And I didn't have that much to do, honestly.
Yeah,
I used to walk around the beach and pick up shark's teeth. And I've got a mason jar full of them now.
That's so cool. Nice.
Yeah, and I was getting paid that whole time. That's pretty great.
That's awesome.
So as part of the interview process, he said, "Do you have any sort of problem with ghosts?" And I said, "Well, I won't have a problem with ghosts." And Also wouldn't have a problem with unicorns or leprechauns either. So okay, well, I've got to leave for about 6 weeks. I got to go back to Texas and deal with a few things, and we'll have that discussion when I get back.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, but the job was just too good. I signed on immediately.
Yeah.
And it was several days. He left. He showed me around. He showed me how to take care of the inn, and the process and the procedure for checking guests in and all that stuff. But then he left. I was on my own. He showed me, it was like a 2-day crash course on how to run a bed and breakfast. And so I was by myself much of the time, and I started to hear things. There was a hallway that ran right down the center of the inn, and you had a kitchen on one side and rooms on the other side, and I was hearing booted footsteps walking down that hallway on a regular basis, and I was the only one there. All the doors were locked. I had the only key to the front door, and I was hearing boots on hardwood. But that hallway was carpeted.
Oh my gosh!
And it got to the point where I got real curious, and I peeled back the rug and the lining just a little tiny bit just to see, and there was hardwood up underneath there. So I was hearing something that obviously couldn't be explained.
Right.
I tried really hard to figure out, well, maybe it's a water pipe under the floor and it's knocking against the bottom of the floor. I was really reaching for an explanation. And I also began to notice some other strange things around that inn. It was part of an old military base called Fort Screven. It was built after the Civil War as part of our coastal defense program, and it was a building set way off to the side. So even in terms of Tybie's layout, it's nowhere near the Fort Screven. It's set off a good bit away from it. So it's very secluded. There's no foot traffic around there, not very much anyway. And I started noticing that the door to the basement would be unlocked a lot.
The door to your studio?
The studio downstairs,
yeah.
The basement. It was one of those sliding tubular locks that you have to fiddle with to get into the little hole. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I would be walking by and see that open, and I had left it closed. And I kept re-locking it because I'm a little OCD. And I'd walk by again 45 minutes later, after cleaning up the room, I'd walk by and it's unlocked again. Man, I tried every way I could think of to jiggle that door and try to figure out how it's popping back open like that. I couldn't figure it out. And so we had that, and then we had another incident where there was a case of sodas. And I heard one day, I'm walking by near the kitchen and I hear wham, 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 wham. I walked in there immediately, and the Cokes had fallen out of the case, and they were all rolling in a line.
What?
Across the floor. You had a Coke,
like
Coke.
Ants.
They're all rolling.
Oh my gosh.
And I watched it for a second, and I realized that house had settled back. In the back, it was built on a hill, so the front yard was flush, but as you went back, it got lower and lower and lower. And the house had settled along with the land a little bit. So what that means is that those cans of Cokes were rolling uphill.
Uphill. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I watched that, and it was just one of those moments where I just had chills all over my body, and it was like, I need to get out of here. I can't explain this. I don't know how this is happening, so I need to leave. And I went outside and sat on the bench. There's a lovely little porch swing, and I sat there for a long time. I eventually did go back inside, but there was a moment there where I thought, I should just drive back to Savannah, mail this guy's key, and say I'm sorry. But
man,
I had something else happen there, and it's probably the scariest thing that happened. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I had that little painting studio down in the basement, and so you went down that set of stairs that was accessible from that door in the hallway. So you'd go down the stairs, turn around the corner, and then walk back to the front of the inn, just like that. And along your path, you had 3 pull chain light switches, and he had tied washers, like big metal washers, to that. So when you're walking in the dark and you're feeling around for it, you could grab it pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because of the weight. So, you touch it and it flies over here, but it has a weight on it. You can find it pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I'm down there painting one night, and I hear the door open. I heard footsteps, and then I heard that door open, and someone was coming down those stairs.
Oh no.
And I'm trapped in the front half of the basement. There's no way out up there. So the front half, remember I said it was built on a hill, so there's no exit. And as I'm standing there, I didn't see anybody, but I could hear them. I could definitely hear them walk down the stairs and then turn that corner and start walking towards me. And that's when that pull chain closest to them went, just started jerking wildly. And as I'm sitting there trying to figure out how that could possibly happen, because again, I'm approaching it with logic. I'm trying to disprove.
Sure.
I'm trying to basically preserve my sanity. The middle one did that at about the pace of somebody walking towards me.
Yeah.
And I did a football move around them called a sweep.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Ran as far to one side as I could and ran the length of the basement down, and then got to the bottom of the stairs and started running up. And that's when the door closed in front of me, and I heard it lock.
Oh God.
And I was standing there in the dark. The light switch didn't work. I'm standing there in the dark, and I'm trying to figure out, do I go back into the basement, or do I can't stay there forever. So I went downstairs very carefully and darted out the back door. I ran around the side, ran up. I'm crashing into azalea bushes. So I'm running up. I run to the door. I open up the front door and run down the hallway. And I want to check that lock. And that lock was still locked. As I got to it, I looked at it very carefully, and I reached out, and my finger got about an inch and a half away, and it unlocked right in front of my eyes.
Whoa. Oh my. Oh.
And it was one of those moments where it was like,
unbelievable.
I don't have any explanation for this.
Unreal.
There's no way this could happen without there being some force that I'm not privy to.
I can hear it in my mind. I can just hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my! I mean, you have to be close to it to touch it. It moved right there.
That was the scariest thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
I never got the sense that there was anything there that was malevolent. I never got the sense that it didn't like me. It was just purely to be noticed. There was a high level of paranormal activity going on in that inn, but I never felt that it was negatively directed towards me. But there was a guest who stayed there. She was very adventurous. She was a solo traveler. She was talking about all these adventures she had signed up for, and she's going to explore the island. Then she's going to go to Savannah. She's going to stay for about half a week. And she got in at night, and I moved her bags into her room, and she locked the door and went to sleep. And the next morning, I had told her breakfast is going to be at 6:30, 7 a.m. She comes out with her bags packed, and she says, "Don't bother with breakfast. I'm not staying." And I said, "What's the issue? I can, try to figure out how to help you if you let me know what's going on." And she said, "No, I'm just leaving. I'm just leaving." And she's wearing a scarf wrapped around her neck. And I said, "Ma'am, I'd love to hear what happened to you, so I can maybe even issue a refund if you need it." She said, No, I don't want that." She said, "Something held her down. Something," she said, not someone. She knew the door was locked. She knew she was alone in there, but something held her down and bit her on the side of the neck.
Oh.
Before she left, she did take the scarf off and showed me there were bite marks on her neck.
What?
And I've thought about this a lot, and the only thing that I can think of is whatever that was came in with her. I don't think that was something with the inn. I think that was something with her.
Wow.
People can be haunted too. I believe.
I I I believe. Yeah, me too.
So that was 1997. The owner came back,
Ah, the end.
and
Yes.
the first words out of his mouth weren't, "How did it go?" It wasn't, "Are there any guests? Did you have a lot of reservations?" He said, "Do you believe in ghosts now?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do. I hate to admit it. I really hate to admit it, but things happened here that I can't explain." So he was very, very happy about that. The fact
Yeah.
that it was proven.
He
But
knew. He knew. Like
he
he
knew
knew.
he had some strange stuff going on around him too, because I saw him walk down that hallway, that same hallway, and it had never done this for me before.
Yeah.
Never done this to me, I should say. The lights up above him dimmed, and there was no dimmer switch.
What?
This
The
was an
hallway
all
lights?
the hallway lights all dimmed as he's walking down that hallway. And
What?
he's already mad about something. Something had happened. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he'd had a misfortune. Something fell on him, I think, when he was working on his truck. He's stomping down the hallway, and the lights start dimming on him. And he just looks up and says, "Knock that shit off." And it did. The lights turned right back on.
Knock that shit off.
Knock that shit off, and boom, the lights turned back on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was my introduction into a larger world, you might say.
For sure.
And I did have some experiences when I lived on Oglethorpe Avenue in downtown Savannah, and it's kind of ground zero for hauntings. And it was a great apartment, and it turned out to be haunted. I wasn't the one that found out that it was haunted. I was working on tour scripts, which later became kind of folded into my book. But I was working really hard on those tour scripts, and a really good friend of mine was between apartment leases, and she needed a place to crash for a few nights. And I thought, oh, okay, sure. I told her though, welcome to sleep on the couch, welcome to watch TV, whatever you want to do. But when I'm in my office, don't disturb me. I'm writing. I'm in the zone. Keep that door closed. If the cops show up, tell them I'm not there. If the place is on fire, let me burn. I was very much into the writing back then, so I'm working on it, and of course I hear a little knock on the door. Kind of try really hard not to roll my eyes. I'm sure I failed, and I open the door, and it's my friend, and she says, "Were you just out here?" I said, "Out here? You came up to a closed door and knocked on it." "No, I wasn't out there." She says, "Well, I was watching TV, and I turned the TV off, and I could see myself reflected in the television, but standing right behind me was a tall man. And obviously it hadn't been me." And she later went on to describe, she's very, very sensitive to spirits. She actually was very, very gifted. And later on, she said, "I figured out what he wants, this entity in your home." She said, "He is very tall, but he's also got poor eyesight. And he doesn't like the fact that you leave the lights on so low. It really bothers him. And it also bothers him that," she said, "that the view from the windows is different. He says that the house has been moved somehow." And it turned out she was right. The house had been moved. It was about a block and a half near, if you know downtown Savannah, it's near the police station. And they moved it to save it because they were going to turn that block into parking for the police department. And there's no way she could have known that.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of info that she had the track on.
And she said that he told her this, or he heard him say she heard him say this, or
she was in a dreamlike state.
Oh wow.
She had basically a vision where she talked to him.
Oh wow. She had a conversation with him?
She had a conversation, she says.
Wow.
She was just asking who he was and why he was there, and he told her, "I own this house, and I don't understand why the view is different outside the window, is what he said. And he
Wow.
also didn't like the lights being so dim because he
Yeah.
had poor eyes. And I thought, okay, she didn't know about the house moving, and that's very strange. But I was still trying logically to explain it away. And while I was struggling with that, another friend of mine who's also very sensitive came over for dinner one night. And she said, "There's a man in here, and he doesn't like that you leave the lights so low."
Oh my
It's just
gosh.
one of those things. It's like 3 weeks passed between those two girls telling me the same exact story about the apartment.
That's incredible.
And there actually is a follow-up to this. I had a roommate at the time, great roommate named Todd. Todd was fantastic. And he left to go back to Tennessee for a while, leaving just me. And the house was odd because it had very tall ceilings, 11-foot ceilings, and no central heat and air. And it got very cold in the wintertime. So you just throw on the blankets. So Tom was out of town. I'm there by myself. I got the lights out. I'm watching a movie. And I had this cat at the time, beloved kitty, named Samantha, she was basically a stuffed animal. You put her under the covers and she'd purr. Kind of a heat-seeking missile, though. She wouldn't leave that cover. So, elderly cat, all she wants to do is be warm. So we're watching a movie, and the cat's under the covers on my legs a little bit. And I see somebody step across a doorway. And my first thought is, oh, Todd's home. I thought, no, he didn't come home. He's still in Tennessee. So I get up to investigate, and there's nobody there. I look in the bathroom. I look in Todd's room. I look in the kitchen. I looked up and down that hallway. There's nobody there. And what I'm thinking, again, logically trying to explain all this stuff away, because I wasn't yet ready really to accept ghosts that quickly.
Even after working at the inn?
Even after working then, I still try to find logical explanations for hauntings before I say, oh, this is a ghost. You gotta really sell it to me. So I'm thinking hard about that, and I'm thinking maybe while I was watching the movie, I fell asleep and I saw something in my dream, and it woke me up, and I went and looked for it, and maybe I've been asleep, just drowsing on the couch, and that may have been it. Except Samantha didn't like strangers in the house. She did not like them at all. She would avoid them, and if they came close to her, she would puff up. And so I'm walking back to the couch. I'm convinced that I dreamed the whole thing, and I see Samantha, who has come out of the covers. She's staring right at that spot where that thing had been. All the cat's fur is standing on end, and she sat there for a long time staring. I was like, okay, all right, there's somebody definitely in this house now. I've had 2 different people describe it, and now the cat is freaking out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was the one time that you saw the man, and just barely. I mean, he just kind of in the back of your sight just walked through the door.
Peripheral vision, really.
Yeah.
The thing about ghost tours is people think that they're going to take a tour and they're going to see a ghost. It's more of a storytelling experience, though.
Well, sure.
And so one night, it was a very, very cool November night, and the temperature had plummeted. It's like from 70 down to like 35 or 40. It was pretty cold, and it turned on a dime, as the Savannah weather does sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there at the cemetery for my second tour of the evening, which begins at 9:00 at the cemetery, Colonial Park Cemetery.
Okay.
And so I'm standing there, and I've started telling people who I am and what we're going to do that night. I've got like 8 or 9 paying guests, and I suddenly realize none of them are paying attention to a word I'm saying. They're looking past me. They're looking over my shoulder into the cemetery, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I can usually plow through it if somebody's not being attentive, but the entire group, that's a little weird. Something was happening behind me, so I finally turned and I looked, and I saw mist in the cemetery. It was some sort of vapor or Anyway, it looked like
Yeah.
fog,
Yeah.
and it was not leveling out in a horizontal way like fog usually does.
Yeah.
It was rising in columns,
What?
mists. It was rising up about 4.5 feet to 6 feet in height and
Oh.
swirling around in there.
Wha-
And
In that vertical shape.
yes,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
To put maybe too fine a point on it, it was the shape of a human being.
Right. They have the 5, 6 feet, right? They got that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we stood there and we watched it.
Oh my God.
3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes that we watched. Nobody said a word. We just all watched it with our mouths open. And then the wind shifted and it blew away. And I turned back to my group and I could see in their faces, a lot of them wanted to run. And I could definitely understand why, but I didn't want to lose them because, tips.
Yeah.
I wanted tips at the end of the tour, and they can't do that if everybody's run off. So this
Yeah.
woman points over my shoulder. She says, that really happened. I said, yes, ma'am, it did. She said, has that ever happened before? And again, I don't want them to run off. So I said, yes, ma'am, every night at 9:00.
This is the best damn tour I've ever been on. Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
A lot of tragedy in that cemetery.
It's one of the. It's oldest in the city. It's the right. Is that the.
It's the
What's a
oldest.
little history for the folks at home there? What.
I say it for accuracy's sake. It's the oldest burial ground in Savannah that's still in existence.
Right.
It's the oldest, but not the first.
Okay.
The first was over underneath Wright Square. Yeah, they built on it.
They just paved over that.
They moved the headstones. They didn't move the bodies because we know this because every time they dig there, they hit a body or two or seven.
Yeah. Or 10,
yeah.
12.
Yeah. Another story about Colonial Park Cemetery. There was a lawyer's office that's a little bit down Oglethorpe Avenue. You got the fire station at the corner of Abercorn and Oglethorpe.
Yeah.
It's 2 doors down from that. It's a white building, and it's pretty old, the building is. And one of my tour guides said that she was working there. It's actually her family that owned the law firm that was in there for a while. And she was out of high school, and they gave her a job as a secretary, to get summer money. So she's hanging out there one day, and everybody else is gone. She hears this little rap at the door, and this little old man standing there, and she looks at this guy, and she just says to herself, I don't usually open the door for strangers, but this little guy, she could break him in half if she had to. This guy was pretty frail. And she said, can I help you? And the fellow said, well, I used to live here back when it was a private residence, and I'd like to take a look around. And she thought, well, yeah, okay, that's fine. This little guy is going to be no problem. And so she's walking him through, and he's narrating, oh, this used to be the playroom, or this was my bedroom, or this was, where we used to play with our jacks or whatever.
Yeah.
And he got to the backyard, and that seemed to spook him a little bit because they had done a lot of landscaping back there. And he says, oh, I see you all have done some digging back here. Did you find anything? And she said, well, I just started working here about a couple weeks ago. And he said, oh, well, my daddy and I got out here. When we lived here, we did some digging in the backyard, and we kept hitting bodies.
Aye.
Yeah. And she said, bodies, plural? In Savannah, it's not that unusual to dig and hit a body. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But when it's bodies in coffins, that gets people's attention. And he said, yes, we dug up a whole bunch of bodies. And when the city came out, they dug up even more, and they put them on a truck. And she said, what happened to them then? And he said, I don't know. They just drove off with them. So,
I mean, how does that work? And what does happen when that happens? I wonder.
I don't know, but I know that in 1969, the city manager and the and the Georgia Historical Society had a conversation about the original dimensions of Colonial Park, or how far out did it extend. And the city manager in 1969 told them that the original confines of the cemetery went maybe as far as Drayton Street.
Like 9-10 rows beyond where it is.
Yes, that's a full city block bigger. And that's because Colonial Park Cemetery was not attached to a church. If it had been attached to a church, you'd call it a graveyard. That's the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard.
Oh, knowledge. Nice.
Yeah. So there was no set limit as to how far it could go out. They kind of traced out the confines, but this is a big field back then. It was called the South Common. Established the Colonial Park Cemetery in 1750.
Oh, wow.
It remained open to new burials until 1853.
Okay.
One real, and I know I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but one of my favorite stories is they closed Colonial Park, like I said, in 1853, and it was due to massive overcrowding. It was a mess. The city had put way too many people into the cemetery at that point, and the city had an idea. They were going to open up a new cemetery, and they were going to approach these prominent Savannah families and say, if you want, we'll move your loved one out to this new cemetery that's much more spacious, and we'll do it free of charge.
Oh my.
And the city did. They didn't charge people at all to move their loved ones out to a new cemetery, which was Laurel Grove Cemetery.
Wow.
Now that was on a rice plantation, and you know what rice grows in, right? Swamp.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So these people, they felt duped by the city, and they came back and said, we'd like to put our loved one back in Colonial Park Cemetery.
Yeah, where they were properly deterred.
And that's where the city said, oh, I'm sorry, it's closed to new burials. So at their own expense, these families had to take their loved ones that had been moved from Colonial Park Cemetery into Laurel Grove Cemetery. They moved them at their own expense all the way to Bonaventure. So
they didn't put them back in. They didn't put them back in Colonial, but they went to Bonaventure.
Yeah, that was fine. That was
they don't want to go back to Colonial. Yeah. They're not going to pay to go back to Colonial anyway.
So we have cases that are almost certainly true of people moving more times after they were dead than they ever did when they were alive.
That's a lot of activity for dead people. They're getting relocated.
Well, Savannah is considered the most haunted city, and I think it's because we're built on our dead. You know, that leaves a lot of unrest in the spirit world.
Yeah.
And that explains a lot of the hauntings, but it doesn't explain someplace like Moon River Brewing Company.
Oh.
Yeah, you're familiar with Moon River.
I am. I've heard many a tale.
And if it's all right, I'll go into the history of it just a little bit.
Please.
Yeah, it's a prominent brew pub, and one of my favorite places to get a really nice glass of beer. But it was built in 1821. And the reason there was the room there, that was a very busy part of the city at the time in the 1820s and 18-teens. But an incident happened nearby. A lantern caught fire and spread to another building. And then in City Market in it was October of 1820, the fire spread to some illegally stored gunpowder, which promptly blew up.
Oh gosh.
So this is a hellish scene. It blew embers all over the city. So suddenly, you know, they're not containing one fire, they're containing a whole bunch of them. And the firefighting crew just had its hands full. They'd had their hands full with just the City Market fire, but once it blew up like that, and there's speculation that maybe the gunpowder was stored where Moon River is, because that was certainly a warehouse and it certainly burned. So they had a nice clear lot to put a hotel on later the next year.
Oh my gosh!
So they put an elegant hotel where that warehouse used to be.
Okay.
And that's at the corner of Bay Street and Whitaker in downtown Savannah. So
yeah.
Right, very close to the Savannah River. So yeah, they built it as an elegant hotel, but it was not a nice place to stay.
Oh.
What I mean by that is it was very well appointed But to even get to your room, you had to walk past the bar, which was full of, well, today we just call them gamblers, but back then they called them the sporting crowd. These were
Huh.
these were the sons of the original planters. They basically ruled the plantation, and then they come into the city during the summertime and bet on sporting events or really anything that moved. These guys they're like modern feudal lords.
Wow.
They moved in realms of society that don't exist anymore. They were the uber rich, and they knew it. They're bored, they're drunk, and they're armed. These are not good combinations. So you got a group of men that are fast and loose with their money, and you got a group of women hanging around them that are fast and loose with something else. You mix that sort of crowd, and you're going to have some bloodshed. And we had quite a bit in the form of duels. Now, when I say the word duel, a lot of people picture like the Old West style duel, but actually it was much more civilized in Savannah. We like to kill each other with a little bit of panache. It went through a series of letters that were delivered by the best friends. These were the seconds in the duel. Yeah, and if it was an important role, that friend, the second, because if the duelist didn't show up, guess who fought in his place?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So a lot of the duels in Savannah during that time period, we're talking 1821, and the last public duel was fought in 1877 between two lawyers. So there was no bloodshed, but it was a very prominent. Yeah, it was a very prominent thing to have happen. Duels were technically illegal. They skirted this by rowing across the river on Hutchinson Island or shooting each other near Old Fort, which is now the Pirate's House restaurant.
They would shoot each other at the Pirate's House?
Yeah.
In the back?
It was called Old Fort. They just stand in front of the wall and just take a shot at one another.
Oh my God.
And the officials looked the other way. The administration looked the other way. But we had a very, very bad disagreement between a guy by the name of James Stark, who was just an absolute bastard. I mean, everything you read about him, he was just a nasty piece of work. He got into an altercation with a very prominent local doctor, a well-liked guy named Dr. Philip Minus. And these two guys just were never going to get along. It seems that James Stark was the antagonist in this, and he was very good at getting people to want to shoot him. He didn't use the flowery language of the day. If you wrote somebody and called them a scallywag or a rascal, that probably wouldn't provoke them to fight, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have preserved in history what he said about Dr. Philip Minus. It's rough language. Can I use it?
Go ahead.
Can I accurately and warmly quote him?
All right.
Okay. Well, he said that Dr. Minus was not fit to be pissed upon.
Oh my.
He was not worth the shot and powder it would take to kill him. And then he took a shot at Dr. Minus's Jewish ancestry.
Goodness.
So he was just a bundle of love. Nice cuddly character. And they went through that complicated dance of letters and seconds, and they had agreed on everything. They'd agreed to fight. They'd agreed that it was grievous enough that the thing between them wasn't going to be resolved. The only thing that hadn't worked out was when and where they were going to have their duel. Those are the conditions under which they ran into one another at the City Hotel, which is now Moon River Brewing Company.
Yeah.
So we'll just file that one under trouble brewing.
Sure.
Yeah, it seems that Stark, the antagonist, stopped at the head of the stairs. He saw his buddy, the good doctor, standing with friends. And you got to really respect the doctor's style, because here this guy's been saying these terrible things about him. He just raises his glass in the direction of his adversary and says, "I proclaim James Stark to be a coward."
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that went over like a fart in church. That's why they call them pews, by the way. Yeah. Bad jokes. All right, so
where's my bell? Ding.
yeah. So Stark, the bad guy of this story, starts rummaging around in his breast pocket, trying to find something. And the consensus in the room, there are 40 people sitting around watching this happen. The consensus in the room was that he was reaching for a weapon. And the doctor certainly assumed that. He just very calmly pulled his own sidearm and shot him right through the center of the chest. Now, he did tumble down the stairs lifeless. So he had a hole in the center of his chest. And even worse, he spilled his drink. There's a little bit of tragedy in every ghost story, and spilled alcohol. Yeah, it seems that these Savannah natives that had jumped out of the way, once the shooting was over, they did ransack the body. So Savannah hasn't changed that much. They were looking for valuables, and they didn't find many. And they were also looking for that weapon, which they never found. It turns out that the doctor had shot and killed an unarmed man in front of 40 witnesses. Now, he was arrested for the crime of murder, but he did wiggle off. He had enough friends in the jury box. I think the official verdict was Stark needed killing.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I talk about the history of buildings a lot on the tour, and how things that happen can have an influence for decades or generations or even hundreds of years. And this is one of those places. Moon River Brewing Company is one of those spots that the veil is very thin, very thin. Even by Savannah standards, it's considered, Savannah is considered the most haunted city in the United States. And you ask probably 25 people, what's the most haunted building in Savannah? You're going to have about probably between half and 20 of those people point to Moon River Brewing Company. So the most haunted city in America and the most haunted site in that city, there's so much activity inside Moon River. It's just ridiculous. I've had many, many instances where things have happened either to myself or to tour guests. One of my favorites is I was sitting with a fellow tour guide and a fellow named Carl. And Carl says to me, we're both done with our tour that night. We're kind of unwinding, we had a drink in front of us. And he said, tell me, Jamie, have you ever had anything happen to you in Moon River? Like physically happen to you? I said, yes, I have. And he says, mine happened about a week ago. And I said, mine happened about a week ago too. And he said, did you feel like you were being choked? Did you feel like the wind was knocked out of you? And I said, that is exactly what I felt. You know, just playing Pee-wee football or Sandlot football, I've had the wind knocked out of me before. I know exactly what that feels like.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is precisely what I felt when I ascended the stairs at Moon River Brewing Company. We went up to the second floor to tell part of the story. And I thought at first I was having a heart attack.
But did something hit you? Like when somebody punches you or runs into you in soccer, then you get the wind knocked out of you. There's that initial wha-bam, like, right? Like there's that something running into you, but you just got the wind knocked out of you, but nothing hit you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Terrifying.
Sensation where I couldn't breathe. I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
Carl and I compared notes, and he said he's thought about it a lot, and he thought he was going to die.
Oh my God.
So I reached in my little pack that I usually have and pulled out a water and pretended like I needed water. And eventually,
you were on a tour when it happened?
I was in front of a paying group. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was pretty weird. We've had things happen on the tour. I had a fellow at the beginning of the night who said, "I don't believe in ghosts. This is dumb." And so away we went. You know,
thanks for coming.
Yeah, exactly. His wife wanted to take the tour, so away we went. And we got to Moon River, and I think it was the third pub on that particular night. Started at 9:00, and we hit the pub on the backswing. And he was walking from one area in that second floor to the other. He was right behind me. He was a good bit shorter than me. He was a bald fella and a good bit shorter than me. And I did notice he did something odd when he walked through that doorway that leads to the central hallway.
In Moon River?
In Moon River on the second floor.
Yeah.
He's stepping through there, and he does this strange touching of his face as if he's trying to get spider webs off of him. And I remember thinking, I just walked through there. There's no spider webs. What's he doing? Maybe he's sweaty or something. Or maybe hair is in his face or something. Anyway, he listened to the story, and I told him in the hallway. And when it was time to go down the stairs, his wife finds me and says, "Where's my husband?" I said, I saw him just a minute ago. She said, "Yeah, me too. He's standing next to me. Now he's gone. I didn't notice him leave." And she said, "He's probably snuck off somewhere in this upstairs, even though you told the group not to do that. He's probably doing that." So we're looking for him in the upstairs. And that's when somebody comes up from that same party and says, "Are you looking for so-and-so?" And she said, "Yeah, where's my husband?" And this person said, "He's out on the sidewalk half a block away. He's sitting down on the sidewalk and he's crying."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. The big non-believer, the guy who said, "No, there's nothing to this stuff." So I walked down there and I sat down next to him and let him kind of calm down a little bit. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No, I'm not okay. I had a terrible time up there."
Yeah.
And it's about that time that I started noticing he had big scratches on his head.
Oh my God.
He had scrapes that had drawn blood.
Oh shit.
He said somebody raked their fingernails over his scalp, and he immediately left. And it was funny, not ha funny, but definitely funny considering his attitude at the beginning of the tour.
Yeah.
Hearing his wife speak to him like he was a frightened bird to get him to come back on the tour. She said, "Honey, at the next pub, it's not haunted. We'll be able to sit down and have a drink, and you can tell me about what happened to you. But you need to come with us." And he was reluctant. And he even said to me, "You should make people sign a waiver form to take this tour."
Oh my God. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I could go on about Moon River all day about, and whatever entity is in there scares me, because it likes to pick out people. Whatever's in there. I don't think it's a traditional ghost. There's something else going on in Moon River. Ghost Adventures might try to talk about the portal to hell and all that nonsense, but there is something off about that space. It's not just a traditional haunting, and I don't know exactly what it is. And I've been going there for 20 years trying to figure it out.
And you still love it, and you still hate it. Like you said, that you do enjoy getting a drink there.
Yes, very much so. But I'm terrified of it.
You might get messed with while you're there, or especially if you're not in the middle of a tour. But apparently, it doesn't care if you are or not.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I had an incident where a good friend of mine is legit psychic. I mean, she's told me things about myself that she could never ever know. It's not something you can guess. It's not something you can look me up on the internet and find, like the street address I lived in when I was 12, and then we moved away from. That's not common.
She told you your street address?
The street address that I grew up. Yeah, 1540 West Stevens Avenue. She came to me one day. She said, "I'm seeing numbers associated with you in a name." She says 1540. Does that mean anything to you? And I said, "No, not really." And she said, "What about Stevens?"
Oh gosh.
That's my street address. I grew up at 1540 West Stevens Avenue.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is the person that I brought to Moon River.
Oh gosh. Okay.
She wanted to see what it was like. She said, we were having lunch, and she said, "I would love to visit a truly haunted space to see what it feels like." And I said, "Have you been to Moon River Brewing Company?" And she said, "No." I said, "We're going right after lunch. It's right down the street." So we walked in there, and she had such a strong reaction to every single floor. We went to the basement, and she's clinging to the walls. She's like edging around the walls so she wouldn't touch anything in the center of the room. And I said, "Rebecca, what are you feeling right now?" And she said, "I feel like I'm being hunted by something that's not human." That one I knew. I said, "You haven't heard the story of what Captain Peter Wilterberger brought back from Africa? When he owned the hotel, he had a live lion and lioness in a cage in the lobby of his hotel.
What?
Yes, he had a live lion and lioness. This is documented. This is true. This is his showing off the regal power of his hotel. That's an image that's associated with royalty in nearly every culture. A lion is showing off power and prestige, and he had two of them chained up in the basement every night. He'd have them moved to the lobby for the daytime so people could see them, but at night he'd move them to the brandy cellar, which is the downstairs banquet space of Moon River Brewing Company now, which is exactly where I took Rebecca. She's walking along and skirting the edge. She can feel them hunting her. And there were some instances on the second floor. I took her up there too. And she would be walking at a fairly brisk clip. She'd stop. She'd take a couple steps to the side and then walk around something that I couldn't see. And she said, when I raised my eyebrows, like, what are you doing? She said, I thought it would be rude to walk right through him. Yeah. She also pulled me aside and said, you're not terribly psychic. You're not terribly attuned to this stuff. And I said, yeah, I can sometimes feel that there's something there, but most of the time I don't. And she said, it's probably good that you're a little numb to this stuff because there's something inside Moon River Brewing Company that hates you.
What? You specifically?
She said, me specifically.
Oh, gosh.
And I asked her why, and she said, because it's territorial. You're bringing tour groups in here. It doesn't like that. There are places on Earth that I think are special, magical, and then there are places on Earth that are the opposite of that. They're still special, but they're not magic. It draws out the bad sometimes in people. If there's a bad, rotten streak in somebody, they're drawn to that building. And I had a TV show that I was a producer on. It was a failed pilot. For every TV show that you see, there are probably 100 that tried to get made, and I made one of them, the ones that didn't get made.
Sure.
Yeah. Big, hefty swing and a miss. So there was a little bit of bad blood on the set between two of the production staff, and I won't use their names, but they did have a little scuffle in the middle of the dining room in Moon River Brewing Company.
Oh.
Where both of the owners. So I got between them, pushed them apart, and said, "Don't have a fist fight on the floor of the restaurant. Don't do that.
Yeah.
We're about to show the pilot to people." Moon River was gracious enough to give us a space and not even charge us for it because they know me, and they're there scuffling around like a schoolyard. So I was pretty mad about that, and I went downstairs into the basement, which is a terrible idea. I look back at that, and it was such a dumb idea. I just wanted to calm down. I didn't want to hear the show. I was so over everything. So I went downstairs into the basement. And I was standing there, and the strangest sensation of tingling all over my body. And it wasn't pleasant. It was like, it almost hurt.
Yeah.
It was like, if you stay in a hot tub a little too long and you feel the bubbles all over your body, and they kind of tickle as they go up, Have you ever? Yeah. This was like the bad version of that.
What?
Yeah, it was like feeling little bites all over me or something like that. Like little sharp pains, almost like pinpricks or electric shock, just something like that.
Wow.
And I stood there completely confused as to what was happening to me. I was still upset. And I hear somebody come down the stairs, and it's my good friend Sheila. And Sheila is definitely gifted with some sort of second sight. And she said, "Jamie, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I'm all right." She says, "No, you're not. The answer to that is no. Get out of here." She took me by the arm, led me out of Moon River. We went out to the sidewalk, and I instantly felt better.
Oh, shit.
And she said, I'll never forget this. She said, "I came down because I could feel that you were in distress." She, by the way, has the same birthday date and year. We were born 2 hours apart in separate
Cool.
parts of the country. Yeah. So she said to me, I don't know how to say this to you, but whatever's down there could feel your unhappiness, and it liked it.
Mm.
It was eating that fear and anger and aggression,
Ugh.
feeding on you.
Ugh.
Yeah. So yeah, I lead tours in there all the time.
You're a brave man.
So, well, I'd go through a lot to get some of that beer.
But now there are periods of time where nothing happens sometimes.
Yes, there
Nothing
are long
personal
periods of
or
time.
yeah.
There are long periods of time when nothing happens in Moon River.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful space. It's a beautiful architectural building, but it comes with baggage.
Wow.
That's a hotel pun.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I was thinking about those ghost lions. I'm sorry.
Sometimes you pull the pin on the grenade and just roll it.
That one went right by me, man. Just right over the head there. Thank you for yes. It comes with a lot of baggage. Oh, good Lord.
Wah, wah.
I missed that. I was thinking of ghost lions, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a Forrest Whitaker film. No, that's Ghost Dog. Gosh. Yeah.
You're looking for personal stories, things that I've witnessed or things that have had happened to me.
Yes.
I do have a story from New Orleans.
Wonderful.
If you care to hear it.
Let's do it.
All right. I went to New Orleans to write a book on the premise of how haunted is this city. I wanted to find out the history, wanted to research each story, find out if it was true or not. It was a tremendous undertaking. And my difficulty was in the city itself. I visited New Orleans, Louisiana in August. You just don't do.
Why would you do that?
I thought I knew what hot was.
They should hang up the phone like, sir, are you sure?
Yeah. So
sir, we'll make the reservation for you, but are you sure you wish to visit us in August? Have you been to New Orleans before?
Being in Savannah, I thought I knew what hot was.
You thought you were.
I thought I knew.
You were like, I got this. Oh gosh, it's like swamp hot.
Yeah, you. It's a 4-shirt kind of day. Pardon me. It's a 4-shirt kind of day. That's what New Orleans offers you in the summer because you sweat through at least 3 of them.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't figure out. Yeah, I'm sitting in my AC, air conditioned office, trying to figure out why airline travel and hotel travel to New Orleans is so cheap in August.
I'm getting a really good deal here. This is great.
It's 100% humidity and 100%. It's 100 degrees. It's an oven. It's like living in a dog's mouth. It's that hot. So I went there under mistaken circumstances. I thought it was going to be an easy time for me, and just walking from place to place got to be cruel. And one of the places at the top of my list was a place called the Hotel Villa Convento, which is a beautiful 1830s inn. And it's rumored that it's the actual inspiration for the song for House of the Rising Sun.
Oh, shit.
Yes. So it was a brothel at one point.
Yeah.
And you would enter the courtyard area, which is an open air courtyard. And you would see these lovely senoritas on the balcony above you. And you would point, and you would get a key, and you would pay your money, and then
They had the girls up on the balcony.
They did.
And you'd be in the courtyard, and you would just point it, and then they get what?
Now, sadly, that they had
oh my God.
They had discontinued that policy when I visited.
That's crazy.
The
courtyard. Yeah. Take your pick there. Oh wow. Okay.
So we I was walking back to my hotel, and I was completely drenched because it's New Orleans in the summertime in the mid-afternoon. And I saw on the map, oh, I'm right near the Hotel Villa Convento. I could pop over there and just see if they can talk to me. And so I did. I walked in, and I had been emailing the staff, and we had just not managed to connect a couple times. And I walked in, and the guy standing behind the front desk said, do you know Vincenzo? I've been emailing him, and he says, I'm Vincenzo, yes. And yeah, I was gonna call you when I got off work, actually. So it worked out perfectly.
Perfect.
He said there are no guests in the inn right now. Again, August.
Yeah.
He said all the rooms are empty and they're all clean. So I can tell you the history of this place. And if you want, I can take you around and show you different places where we've had hauntings happen. He said, I'll probably only show you the second and the third floor. We might get around to the fourth, but that's way too haunted. So he told me a great history of the inn, and it's all in the book, the book I wrote about New Orleans.
And what is the title of that book, James Caskey, available on Amazon right now?
It is The Haunted History of New Orleans, Ghosts of the French Quarter.
Ladies and gentlemen, check out James's several books besides Ghosts of the French Quarter. Buy them all, enjoy them all, and we can't wait for your next publication and your journey of this.
Kindles. $5 Kindles. That's
$5 Kindles even. Come on.
You can own the whole library for $20.
Boom.
Yeah. So
available now on Amazon. Just look up James Caskey. Buy them all, guys.
There you go. So we get in the elevator to go to the second floor, and Vincenzo says, we call this elevator Grandma.
What?
I said, I'm sorry. He said, the elevator is named Grandma.
Okay.
Said, because she's old, she's slow, and she smells funny, but we love her. It was literally upholstered. It was upholstered. It was like a coffin.
Oh gosh.
Like a coffin.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty hideous. So we get to the second floor, and the rooms were nice. The rooms were very nice.
Okay.
The elevator, though, it was special. So he's showing me these rooms, and he's got with him a key card. It's a skeleton key. So he just scans it, and it would flash green every time and let us in the room. Well, he said, "Yeah, let's go up to the fourth floor. Let's see what's going on up there.
Let's get in Grandma and go to the fourth floor."
Grandma, and we went to the fourth floor. So the doorway opens, the elevator door opens, and there's the hallway that leads to the fourth floor rooms. And my heart suddenly started jackhammering. All the spit left my mouth. It was a definite reaction to this space, fight or flight. And I looked at Vincenzo, and he said, "You feel that too?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he stepped out of the elevator, and I followed behind him.
Yeah.
So whatever was going to attack us would get him first. Yeah.
You first, Vincenzo.
Yeah. So,
right after you, buddy. I'm right here.
Yeah. Just go a little further. Just a little further. So
you and me, Vincenzo.
So we get to the door, and he says it's not going to let us in. He swipes it, and it flashes red. It's the first one and the only one that flashed red. He swipes it, it flashes red. He did that, I think, 4 or 5 times. And then he said, it's not going to let us in unless I ask it politely. I said, come on. Really?
What?
Yeah. I didn't believe that at all. So he says, I'm going to give the key card to you just so you can see that I'm not manipulating anything. Just slide it like you do a regular.
What? What?
So I slide it a couple times, and each time it flashes red.
Okay, it's broken. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, aloud. He doesn't speak to me. He's speaking to the spirit. He says, if you're here, will you let us in the room, please? It's very polite. Please. So he swipes it. It turns green, and the door.
No. What? Oh my God.
Yeah. So I raise my camera up. The door opens onto a little sitting room, and I've got my nice Canon Rebel
So it's like a suite, right? Like it's like one of those bigger hotel rooms.
It is. It is. It's a really nice room.
Yeah, yeah.
I would never stay there in a million years.
I don't have I don't have sweet life money.
So I put my camera up to my eye and I press the button. Nothing happens. It had turned off. And it's part of a battery saving feature. I was like, well, it's been less than 2 minutes. It's supposed to shut off after 2 minutes. But whatever, I'll flip it off and back on again. Raise it to my eye again. I press the button. Nothing happens. It's turned off again. This kept happening. Vincenzo starts smiling. He says, try asking its permission nicely.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
There's no way. There's no way.
Oh,
he said, try it. Raise the camera up. I said, may I please take some photos of the room, please? It worked.
Oh my God. Had you use your camera that afternoon before you got to the hotel too? Right. Yeah.
All over the French Quarter.
Sure.
It had 2 battery packs. It was good to go. And it shot all the photos, no problem, from that particular room. But we're
after you asked permission.
After I asked permission, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One wonders if I had not asked permission, and would the camera just be broken forever?
Right, but it just had forever locked it up. Oh wow, I don't know.
Would that be covered by the warranty?
You have to go back to New Orleans and go to the 4th floor on Grandma and ask it to unlock the. Please, listen. I paid a lot of money for this. Can you help me out?
I'm just picturing writing the letter to the customer service rep. My camera is haunted. I would like a new one, please.
I need a haunt-proof camera, please. You need to make a haunt-proof model.
So he's standing closer to the bedroom, and I'm standing in the sitting room. I didn't really want to go any further. I just had such a terrible vibe from that room. It was like.
You took all the photos. You're standing there taking these photos, right? But you're done now. So.
Well, I'm still taking photos of the bedroom.
Okay.
And he says, Vincenzo says, sometimes, if you're polite, you can ask it to move things and it will.
Oh.
I said, Vincenzo, there's no way that can be true.
You said you were feeling bad. You said it was looming. Something's happening in your.
Unbelievably ominous.
Okay.
I wanted to run.
So whatever was going on when you guys stepped off the elevator has now just basically increased. Like but not enough to where you're gonna leave, but it's gotten worse.
Yes, correct. It was.
But you wanted to leave in the beginning, but you talked yourself through that. Now it's raised. The volume it's increased. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Vincenzo says if you're polite, sometimes it will move things for you.
Yeah.
And while I didn't believe him, I very much wanted to see that. So I see him focus on a coat hanger in the closet.
Okay.
And he says, if you're here and you want to, would you please move something? Now, when he said that, there was a weird rumble hum, some vibration that went through the entire room. And
what?
Vincenzo and I both looked at each other, and he said, did you feel that? I said, yeah, I felt that. He said, that's not something that normally happens. I have no explanation for that. I said, do it again. And he puts his hands up. He says, if you're here, he's looking right at that coat hanger. He said, if you're here and you want to, will you please move something? And right when he said that, there's that weird rumble hum again. And he said, you felt it that time too? And I said, yes. And I started to have an idea. I started to have an idea of what that was. I said, I want you to do that same thing exactly the same way, but I'm going to take a big step back because I think I know where it's coming from. He said, okay. And he did again. If you're here and you want to, will you move something? That weird rumble hum happened again. What? It was the elevator moving.
Oh my God.
Yes. He wanted to move a coat hanger. It's moving the whole elevator.
It's Grandma. He's moving Grandma around the building.
Well,
oh my God. Oh my God.
I said, Vincenzo, has it ever done that before? He says, it can't do that. That elevator is only operable by somebody pressing the button. That's the only time it will move. It's not one of these ones that goes back to the floor, the basement or the
first level. Grandma's old school.
Yeah, you got to press a button.
Or it stays on the floor until you do.
And I said,
I've seen these elevators, not that kind of elevator before, but yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. It was from the 1930s or 1940s, he said.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I turned to Vincenzo and I said, I'm going to say a phrase that I never thought would come out of my mouth. I want back inside Grandma and I want to get the hell out of here.
Let's go. Let's get on Grandma and let's go, please. Let's go, Grandma. Let's go. Go, Grandma, go.
I had that experience in the Hotel Villa Convento, and I knew there was something else going on, that it wasn't just a residual haunting. There was something in there that needed to be explained or needed to be solved. And so I went to the there's an archive in New Orleans, and you're only supposed to be able to copy 10 items per visit. And I think I topped out 154. And a lot more about that building. And all the property records.
Ma'am, I love your dress. You look so lovely today.
Yeah. Here's some beignets and cafe au lait.
I brought coffee way too much for myself. Would you like? I got a cup for you.
Yes. So I did research on the ownership. It passed hands a number of times. It was built for the Pofar family in the 1830s. I think it was 1832. And it passed through a number of hands, and then it became the property of somebody with the first name Vincenzo.
What? That's the guy in the what?
That's the manager. So I called Vincenzo.
Yeah.
That Vincenzo, the one that I spoke to.
Yeah.
And I said, I know probably maybe why the spirit in your inn that you manage is so upset all the time. It's because there's an owner named Vincenzo. That was his first name. And when somebody calls you, he responds to it and doesn't get a response back. So you need to explain if you want to have the thing calm down. He said, very much so. I very much would like to have it calm down. I suggested buying a bottle of nice wine, drinking about half of it, and then having a conversation with the ghost.
Conversation with the ghost.
Explain to him what's going on, why he's getting called all the time.
Like sit down with it and just you and the ghost and share a bottle?
Yeah.
And you poured a glass? Do you pour a glass for them or?
Maybe. Depends on how you think they would receive it.
I think that's brilliant.
The name was Italian, so he'd probably like some red wine.
There you go. Wait, so did he? That was your advice to Vincenzo.
He did it. He bought a bottle of nice wine. He had about half of it. Sat down and had a conversation, and he said the incidents fell off a cliff. He said it was a much more positive haunting from that point forward.
Wow.
So yeah, sometimes the easy solution is the best one. You just
have a conversation.
Have a conversation, yeah.
Respect, pay respect. Admit that it's there. Admit that it's a presence, and then treat it like a human being. Treat it like be decent. Be a kind person to another person, for sure. Yeah. Oh wow, Jamie, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
So yeah, New Orleans is really fun. I had a friend who owned a condo on Wilmington Island, and her boyfriend invited me out to the beach. A couple friends came too, and I had too much to drink, and I never drink and drive. So it's like, okay, can I crash on your couch? They're like, yeah, the other couple already took the bedroom, the bedroom with the double bed, but yeah, couch, you're single, sure, okay. So I crashed out on the couch and fell into a deep sleep. I was awakened a few hours later because someone was standing over me.
Oh no.
And had me by the toe of my sock and was pulling on it.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And I opened my eyes, startled, and it was an old woman. Oh, and she made this motion like, oh, I'm sorry. She didn't say anything. She didn't make a noise, but she went and kind of, oops. And she turned and she walked down the hallway. And so I thought, well, that's a weird way to meet either Matt or Mary's grandmother. So I rolled over and went to sleep. Didn't know what the deal was, but didn't care. I was sleepy.
Yeah. And this woman immediately disarmed the situation. It seems like
Yes.
as soon as she did that, it was okay. Like I was okay.
She thought maybe I was somebody else, but yeah. So
oh my God.
I was awakened the next morning by the sounds of Mary moving around around her condo. She was up moving around making coffee for me the next morning.
That's nice.
Really nice, yeah.
Sure.
And just to make conversation, I said, "Oh, by the way, I guess I met your grandmother last night." Mary stopped and had the cup in her hand and said, "What did you just say?" I said, "There was an old woman who leaned over me in the middle of the night and she had a hold of my sock." And when I said that, Mary dropped the mug and it broke on the floor. She said, "If this is a joke and Matt has put you up to this, I don't think it's funny." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm telling you what happened to me last night. I don't know who that person was, but they woke me up. They had a hold of my sock." And she said,
"Yeah.
Have you ever wondered why I have such a nice condo?" She's like, "I'm 22 years old and I own a condo on Wilmington Island. Don't you ever wonder why?" I said, "I just assumed you were well off."
Or that you figured something out that I haven't done yet.
Yes. She said, "I inherited this from my grandmother who is dead."
Yeah.
This was her condo. And back when Matt and I were just dating, he would fall asleep on the couch a lot and she would wake him up and make him leave because she couldn't sleep with the TV blaring. She would grab him by the toe of his sock and tug on it. I didn't know that story, but Grandma came back and was just fine. Just a little surprised to find a drunk on her couch instead of Matt.
Oh my gosh!
It was a weird happenstance. Yeah, that happened to me shortly after I opened my tour business. Went out, had a nice night at the beach, and then had a little haunting that I didn't suspect was coming.
Man, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's one of those stories without a punchline. You know what I mean?
It's just she's like, "If you're fucking with me, you need to tell me right now. Like that's not funny at all." And you're like, "Listen, I'm not. Like I'm not fucking with you. Like I'm just telling you what happened."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Giving you an accurate account of last night's shenanigans. Yes.
Wow.
So yeah.
So Matt would sleep on the couch. I guess out of respect, he wouldn't sleep in her room or whatever with her. Like he would.
Yeah. They weren't married yet.
And then the grandma kicked him out of the living room too.
She had rules. Quirky grandma.
Yeah, you got to get out of here, Matt. Go home, buddy. And he's like, "All right."
He's like, "Last call."
Wow.
Yeah.
And she was surprised it wasn't Matt.
Yeah, that was the kind of a nice part of it. Is she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You stay right there. I'll usually you find somebody sleeping on your couch that you don't know, you'd scream bloody murder." So I'm glad she didn't.
Yeah. Awesome. Jamie, it's been so great to have you on the show. And again, in the show's conception, I thought, hey, I'm going to give Jamie a call and I hope that he says yes. And you did. And here you are with all of these stories for us. And I hope that folks enjoy it. Guys, write in, email in, if you want me to ask Jamie some questions. I can reach out to him.
That'd be great.
And Jamie, if you have any social media stuff you'd like to add, and once again, if you want to plug your books, available right now, James Caskey on Amazon.com, and the Kindle, only $5. Get all 4 books for $20.
That's a steal.
Look him up on Facebook at James Caskey, or Cobblestone Tours.
Yeah.
If you're visiting Savannah, get the Cobblestone tour number from any hotel lobby, or just look on your phone for Cobblestone Tours. This is what year is this?
Savannah.com. GhostSavannah.com.
GhostSavannah.com.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, how'd you get that? Wow, that is nice. GhostSavannah.com, guys. Call Jamie when you're in Savannah. He'll take you on a really awesome tour, and of course, you'll meet and end at the famous uh,
Moon River.
Moon River Brewery.
Yes.
So yes, go in Moon River with Jamie. See what happens. um, I thoroughly enjoyed having you on, Jamie. Thank you so much for coming. This
Thank
has
you.
been such a pleasure, man. Thank you, man.
Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you, Jamie.
All right, brother.
Take care, man.
Take care.
Bye. Wow. Wow. What a banger of an episode. So exciting to have James Caskey, the CEO of Cobblestone Tours in Savannah, Georgia, the author of many paranormal books, now all available on Amazon.com, by the way, and apparently Kindle. And you can get them for $5 a piece on Kindle. Once again, James Caskey on Amazon. Those books are Haunted Savannah, America's Most Spectral City, Charleston's Ghosts, Hauntings in the Holy City, St. Augustine's Ghosts, Hauntings in the Ancient City, and the Haunted History of New Orleans, Ghosts of the French Quarter. And when you go to Savannah, you can go to ghostsavannah.com and book your tour for Cobblestone Tours with Jamie, and he'll take you to all the places that we talked about, including everything ends at Moon River Brewing Company right there at the end of the tour, and then that's a really cool part of the tour itself. So, man, just awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Also, 912-604-3007 is Cobblestone Tours phone number. And when you're in Savannah, you can call that or go online and book your reservations at ghostsavannah.com. Again, that's Cobblestone Tours. James Caskey on Amazon, author, uh, ghost tour guide extraordinaire, historian of spectral happenings in cities down south. But I'm telling you, I think he's going to continue to write and tour and do more stuff and write about more cities. And I can't wait to read those books as well. He's just such a great storyteller and such a great writer and such an incredible guest. Jamie, thank you again for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I need interviews. I need new guests for the show. If you have had a paranormal experience and you want to talk to me about it on the show, you want to be a guest on the show, you can write in to paranormalrecordpodcast@gmail.com right now and give me a brief description of your story. Tell me that you're interested, and I will get back to you and I will reach out with a phone call. Please leave me your phone number and your email address and your mailing address. And everybody that writes in, I will send them all a paranormal sticker, right? You get your own paranormal record sticker. Everybody that writes in gets a sticker. If you write in and just leave me your address and go, hey, I'm a podcast listener. I love the show. I want a sticker. I will pay for that stamp. I will slap it on an envelope and I will send you your very own paranormal record sticker. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for being here week after week as more stories are told. I have so many more stories. I have so many more guests. I have so much more to listen to, listeners. Stay with me. Stay tuned. I'll see you all next week, you guys. Take care. I'm Rob Constantine. Good night.